Jesse, let's talk about your music, man. How's the new album doing?
It's been great, man. And again, doing more interviews recently, right after Inauguration Gift came out, I started looking more at like, okay, what of these can I try to do acoustic? And breaking those songs down and simplifying them just made me enjoy like the more bare bones it is, the easier it is to convey that message and feel like I'm getting that across. Which, like I said, led to at first me thinking, okay, the next album is going to be strictly acoustic. And as I wrote, I hit this writing period that, I mean, every day I was writing at least one piece, and they were lengthy. And next thing you know, it's like I'm pouring out stuff that would be way too long to turn into a song. If I did, it would be like some 17-minute Mars Volta song. I would have to make some giant, 8 different movements like Close to the Edge by Yes or something. It just more than I have time to do. And I hate to say that, but I'm writing so much that it felt like, okay, what's the quickest, most concise way to get these together and presented? And especially doing something like this, I love getting to play and do a piece, but it's so much fun too to do spoken word. Um, and and so that's what I started writing. You all of it actually at work. I think there might be one piece on this next album that I wrote at home, but usually throughout the day I'll be driving around on the forklift and kind of writing stuff in my head. And when I have a moment, type what I can in my phone, and then just kind of accumulate. And then on my lunch break, I go, God, I cleared the 1,000 word mark. It's like next, it's like I need to stop and go on to the next piece. So I did just have this crazy burst of writing recently that all of a sudden turned into 15 spoken word pieces for this next album.
So you drive a forklift?
Yeah, for the most part throughout the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing. I mean, I think we kind of had this conversation before, so you can like shut me up if you're Ron. We've done this before. Please stop. But I used to work in shipping and receiving at one point in my life, and
Okay.
it was the only day job I ever enjoyed. One of the
Mm-hmm.
only ones. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I guess I enjoyed teaching. I don't know if that. I guess that counts, right? I enjoyed teaching when I taught community college, and I enjoyed shipping and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I actually, when I was in high school, I worked at a funeral home. Really enjoyed that. That was a really cool job.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've had a ton of day jobs I've absolutely hated. I mean, the bad
Mm-hmm.
outweighs the good by a lot, but
Yeah.
those are some of the ones I actually genuinely enjoyed. And shipping and receiving in particular, one, I worked with cool people, which makes all the difference. But
Same. Absolutely.
also it was cool because it's like you were kind of, it's the type of work where it's like, what needs done, you just do
Mm-hmm.
it. So if you're a creative person, you still have that mental bandwidth.
Exactly.
So I would
Exactly.
just like,
Yep.
and especially, when I write jokes, I like to just record them. I like to just hear
Yeah.
them, to like
Yep.
hear where the beats are. So
Yeah.
what I would do, I mean, dude, if I was just stocking shelves at a warehouse, just unloading
Mm-hmm.
stuff, if no one else was around, I would just turn on my phone. I would just
Oh yeah.
record into my phone. No one, I mean,
Yep.
I'm not saying things that I want people to overhear because they're
Yeah.
like
Right.
jokes that might not be funny yet, or just sort of inappropriate in the wrong
Yep.
context where
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I walked by and Ron was rambling about his cat and his,
Yeah. Right.
whatever.
No, that's
So,
totally me too.
yeah, but I would just do it. And if someone was, I would just go to the bathroom or something and in the stall, just record
Hmm.
something real quick or
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
And I'm
And,
lucky enough. There's a lot of floor noise where I'm at. There's an awful lot of machinery operating,
mhm.
and we all have your protection in. So I can be off the. A lot of times the machine that I operate is 2 stories up, so I have a pretty long flight of stairs to get up to. So even if it's quiet, I can be up there like shouting into my phone, and no one can hear me. But they can just see and usually know like, oh, Jesse must be writing something because I'm up there with my phone like. I'm just like in
Wow.
silent rage. But but that's been the nice thing. There's sometimes I come home and I think I recorded something legibly, and all I hear is machinery and grinding and clanging, and I can hear my voice a little bit. I'm like, what the hell am I saying on this? So I had to start typing it out because sometimes the recordings are just too much.
Sure. Well, you got to be careful too, man, because as a musician, it's like your ears are already susceptible.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
got to be,
Well,
I
I
mean, if you're
actually
around loud
your
noise,
stare, I lost an awful lot of hearing right after Thanksgiving. And I went to the doctor and they were 100% sure what it was. They were like, there are a few different things it could be, and they could be a few months before it clears up. And I mean, I could barely hear someone right next to me. So as like a dad, it was like I wasn't 100% comfortable. Like even being in the other room from my son, because like if something happened and he got hurt, I couldn't hear,
Oh,
And
geez.
it was a couple weeks before it ended up coming back. And when it did, I just cried all over myself. I was so happy because you can't help but fear for the worst, because you're like,
Sure.
I could not work on music. I tried my best, but it was so hard to hear little things. In fact, the most success I had, weirdly enough, was I took an earbud and put it in my mouth, and the vibration like did better going just directly into my skull than trying to go through my ears. But I also couldn't record a song like that. So
Oh,
it was a weird few weeks. And I'm really, really thankful that whatever it was cleared up, because then my hearing was back. But
be careful,
so
man. I
yeah,
mean, that's.
it was, and again, I
Did
mean,
you
we're
see?
hearing protection at work, but there's still an awful lot of, and we have yearly hearing tests they schedule for us, and
Well, that's
mine's
good.
okay, but it's scary. It's one of those things, as a musician, you're just like, oh God, did everything just come to a halt?
Mm. Dude, well, did you see that movie about the drummer?
I haven't yet. I've been wanting to watch that.
Oh, you gotta
Yeah.
watch it. It's a really good film. It's a
Yeah,
really good
I heard
movie.
brilliant things about it.
And yeah, and especially as a musician, like you'll really
Yeah.
relate. I mean, it's about this duo and they're on tour and
Hmm.
the drummer loses his hearing and they're
Yeah.
also a couple and it's a good movie and but that movie, I mean that it freaked me out a little bit
Yeah.
and
Oh, I bet.
I don't want to give anything away because you got to see it, but
Hmm.
it freaked me out a fair amount as far as like
Yeah.
oh wow and it was just a brilliant film.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to do a piece for us?
I'd love to, yeah. If you don't mind, I was planning two songs and a couple spoken word pieces.
That sounds
Um,
great, man. Floor is
awesome.
yours.
Cool. So yeah, the spoken word stuff, I started writing a little bit. I mean, still topical, still political, but kind of going a little bit dystopian corporate future, kind of seeing how Black Mirror I could get things. And what's crazy is no matter how far down that rabbit hole I went, none of it felt like it wasn't plausible in the short
Mm.
term. Like it couldn't be a headline that we see before long. And it was nice because even though I felt like I was getting to kind of cheat a little and make a diversion and talk about something different, I'm still talking about what's going on now. Even if I felt like I wasn't, it all connected, even better than I could have planned for it to. So I'm at the point now, everything's written. It's just a matter of recording. And I mean, the last time I was on Facts on the Ground, I did 7 spoken word pieces, and I had written them all in the last week or 10 days,
Oh
something like
wow.
that.
So this is
And
unreleased
so,
stuff.
yeah. So, once I realized I get in on a roll and then I want to just keep reading and reading another one and reading another one, I kind of want to wait until I have a good chunk of time and I'm in the mood and see if I can record all 15 pieces in one night. Because I would love to be able to say, like, okay, this spoken word album was like one session. I just sat down, had a pot of coffee going, and just knocked them out, because I feel like it would
Well,
be nice
dude,
to
what
have
if
that
you
same energy throughout it.
let me throw this at you real quick and then I'm
Yeah.
really stoked to hear this, but just going off what you're saying. What if you what if you did like just your own live stream where you just like went through a couple different
I've
sets?
looked into that. I mean, my setup right now, my audio and visual leaves a little bit to be desired, and my connection too. In the interest of net
Oh,
neutrality, I
that's
swear. Sometimes during the day, my bars even right by the modem, my connection is just abysmal, and then all of a sudden
well
in the
that's
evening,
why we
I'm back
need
up to full.
that's why we need
Um,
municipal broadband.
yeah.
That's why we need municipal broadband.
So it's definitely something I would love to do, but it's also something that working full time plus and having a toddler, it's hard enough to find time to be able to record on my own schedule. I would have a hard time right now trying to schedule like semi average streams or something, but it's definitely something I would love to be able to do. And in fact, Facts on the Ground and Krish Mohan are both talking with me about, once the spoken word album is done, getting to come on and do kind of release party events where I read through the whole album in one evening, which would be super fun. So really, as soon as I can get it recorded, it's my brother's working on the artwork, who did the art for my first 2 albums. And yeah, once that's done, it shouldn't be too long. I think probably in the next month or so, I'll probably have it ready to go.
All right, Jesse, let's talk more rock.
All right. So this is a song off of Inauguration Gift, off of my last album. It's actually my pinned tweet, and this was the first thing I wrote about the Squad in any regard. And it was so nice to see the feedback I got from people that they were just as disenchanted as I was. Yeah, this was one of those reaffirming moments where it's like, I'm not alone in thinking this, and that's just the most satisfying thing as a musician, to feel like people are relating, with anything you write, but especially political stuff like this, especially stuff that affects like our day to day.
Well, I give Joe Biden an A, and he has surpassed my expectations. But you do your thing.
Oh God, I could not believe that. It's like, how do you say that with a straight face? It answers. I used to wonder who has the tougher time: the people that don't have to, they have to be the bad guy, your GOP, that have to be those people all the time, or the people that lie to your face and tell you they're on your side. And it's absolutely the people that have to lie to your face, the people that have to, at the end of the day, still assure the same outcome for you, but act like they're in there, fighting for you and going to bat for you. I don't know how they sleep at night. Like, I really don't. So this is hashtag Squad Goals. Fate demanded I be singer of a new ballad about the candidate you wanted like a finger in your fruit salad, but were made to choke down. Never mind he didn't have supporters on the ground. Never mind a website that gave volunteers the runaround, and a platform, a policy that followed Biden's lead and didn't make a fucking sound. And then he takes the crown. Now that's ascension into power by immaculate election, cause no one really wanted it and no one should have trusted it. But don't you try to question it, cause Joe is not a fan of questions, but Joe is a fan of pointing fingers right in people's faces. Or if they're not in public spaces, Joe will try to point a finger everywhere I wouldn't mention. Joe's soul is molded and beholden more to power than the list of fucking speakers at the DNC convention, who gave us all a show of keeping AOC at bay, just so everyone could say they tried to censor her dissension. But if you still believe the progressives we've elected give a shit if we're protected, there's a bridge I'd like to sell you in a parallel dimension. They're just tech savvier with media relations, propagandist Instagram and public obfuscation. They're better suited to assure you that they're here to have a conversation. They're better suited to assure you they aren't actively supporting your eviction and your slide into starvation. Better suited to assure you they can tweet about your needs and offer hope and motivation while you drift into the weeds. But they partnered with the moccasins and gators in the reeds, and they damn sure see a portion of our meat. So, love me or leave me or mislead me to decrete. Honey, you don't want to hear it, so I'll try to say it sweet. The Squad are not your buddies, they are simply more discreet. The GOP will kill you on your feet. Dems and fake progressives do it in your sleep. Anyone could recognize a nation's needs and put it in a tweet. But coming from a leader in a seat of power really shows they know they're obsolete. Nah, GOP will kill you on your feet. Dems and fake progressives do it in your sleep. See, the Squad are not your buddies, they are simply more discreet. No, the Squad are not your buddies, they are simply more discreet.
It's a great tune, man. I muted myself because I was gonna like sing along, and I know there's like a bit of a lull, so I would have just fucked up here. But shut up, Ron. So I'm like, I'm just gonna mute myself. People can see me nodding along. All right, man. So you're gonna do another song and then a couple spoken word pieces.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So this song actually, I was going to do. Hang on a sec. My G string has a mind of its own.
Dude, there's always one string that always has a mind of its own, and usually it's kind of I mean, a lot of times that's on us because we fucked up the stringing process a little bit, right?
Yep.
Like, usually
And these
when
are
it's like
nylon too, so these strings are held on with hopes and prayers.
no, I feel ya. I mean, I got a new guitar and it's actually treated me good. It stays in tune a little bit better and it just because I tune down a good
Oh,
bit.
nice. Yeah.
But it gets out really easily. Like
Yeah.
it'll just get out so easily. So I have to be so mindful of it. And but I can't sing otherwise. Like I can't sing I can't sing. I don't have a good voice like you, man. I can't sing in standard tuning. You gotta be down a few steps so I can fake through it.
So this song I was going to do when I was on your show the first time, but we were talking about the Capitol riot, which had just happened, and I was looking over these lyrics and I was like, I don't want this song to be misconstrued. It's a little hot for this song. Not that a lot of my songs aren't kind of a call to action, but I didn't want something that was too call to action-y coming off of the heels of that. I've since played it on Facts on the Ground. I played it on Krish's end of month comedy show the other day, which was fantastic. He did a whole bit about Kashmir that was just incredible. I loved seeing him on with you recently too. You guys, that was a blast.
Yeah, he's on the show once a month.
Yeah. He and I actually, he's going to be near me in the fall, and we might be trying to do an actual like gig together, which would be the first time I've gotten to play any of this stuff out. So that would be exciting.
Cool, man.
But yeah, so this is off of The Virus. This is off of my first album. This is called Militia Intent.
Can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands. Why play civil when you wouldn't listen to 100,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. So why play civil when all these dead won't make you listen? What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I could see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me. For I would pick my targets and assassinate them lyrically. That I would bring them out into the town square, hook them to the pillory and leave them there. And Hillary, I'll see you there. Oh, Hillary, I'll see you there. You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands. Why play civil when you wouldn't listen to 250,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. So why play civil when all these dead won't make you listen? Welcome to the fantasy of rhetoric. And welcome to the last of the free speech while we can get it. And I promise you can get it. All you corporate Democrats, second wave Confederates, GOP illusionists and neo-Nazi bureaucrats. And Stephen fucking Miller, I will see you in the aftermath. When all the laws are dust, it's just moral justice after that. And I would hunt you through the wasteland if it comes to that. Just so I could rub you in the dirt like a cheap human Brillo pad. See, I could sleep fine when our beds are burning, Stephen, but I'll turn around and run into the blaze to get my pillow back. Long as I can lay my head down, I can live with that. I could deal with a little ash. I could feel like a little of the old me burn with the bad and the rest of my past. The old world where we all lived and we can't get back. The old world where you didn't give and you'd still get back. Where you could rake in 12 billion and give none back. Those days are behind us, the virus will kill all of that. Your wealth is behind us and kindness is meant for the past. Our leaders would bind us and starve us and call it a fast. A sacrament meant for their God that they garnish in cash. And they feed it the poor by the hundreds, that's all that it asks. Its hunger is legion and people in need are all it will have. Our only chance is to starve it and watch as it turns on them. You can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands. Can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands.
Nice, man. Yeah,
General Strike.
I can see how. No, totally. General Strike. Yeah, no, I can see how you might have thought like, okay, at this particular time, not this song, but I think you're.
And really, that's the only. I can proudly say that's the only time I've ever self-censored. You know, was just that it's not like I don't stand by that song in its proper context. But
totally.
It'd be too easy to attach that to a totally different belief system. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to roll the dice on that one.
Yeah, I think you just made a timing judgment call. Because, I mean, yeah, hearing it now, I think the metaphor is very, very clear. Like I don't think there's any ambiguity there. But I could see how, you know, in that particular moment in time, you're like, okay, this isn't the right song for this particular time. But fair enough, man.
And
it's still a great tune.
Oh, thank you, man. And the actual album version of that song, once I realized I wanted to use as many kind of like American Revolution terms and kind of metaphors as I could, I have a string instrument on GarageBand. It's actually a Japanese instrument called an eru, and it's when you put it in a major key, it has such a kind of American Revolution kind of fiddle feel to it. Like, so that's what I did, was write a lot of these kind of I don't know, early like patriotism feeling kind of melodies to go with that song, which was super fun. And props to my wife, because I was thinking of lyrics for that and I was standing in the kitchen. I remember going like, what are those things, like the stocks that they put people in, you know, that close the wood around your head and hands? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, pillory. I was like, that's a fun word. She goes, oh, well, Hillary, there's your rhyme. I was like, oh, there's my rhyme indeed. Have I told you lately that I love you?
Good for you, but well, good for her. That's awesome.
Yeah,
and
right?
Good for you. That's brilliant. All right. So hit me with these spoken word pieces, man.
So spoken word. Okay. This is one of the first pieces. And a few of them too, it was fun to kind of play with a slightly different perspective. And this one, I wanted it to be from talking about people rationalizing and justifying what we're seeing so far out of the Biden administration. And all these moments where it's just, you would think indefensible in its comparison to Trump or in its 180 from a promise that he made on the campaign trail, but people are finding it in them, you know, to justify an awful lot of that. And I wanted to write from that perspective, and it was tremendously fun to do that. And I admittedly tend to kind of jump around perspective an awful lot. That's my weak spot. But I think it's pretty obvious when I slip into that, because the tone definitely shifts with it. This is called Autopilot, the Liberals' Lament. Now this might just be the last song before I'm silent. Kamikaze autopilot. An awful lot of hate in my heart and a propensity for kindness. Adrift in an ocean of centrists and all of the rest of the otherwise eyeless. And I know the instinct to lower one's gaze in the hope of escape is ancestral and timeless. But you need to know that the binds that detain us in no way define us. May everywhere you lay your feet be the battleground. Anywhere you keep the fight in your heart, honey, that's where the fight is. The force of our will is worth more than their might is. And the cold touch of steel is worth more than the touch of the Midas. And they could dig canyons or craters or gulfs, but they cannot divide us. We are the poor and the huddled, forever denied until forced into violence. But quell your excitement. The dark mass of clouds seen amassing for war on your placid horizon are born of the toxins of white men, who see themselves more as the gods moving mountains and speaking in lightning than actual human devices. Manifest destiny, narcissist energy, war pigs in crisis. And endlessly, each will keep funding their own little personal ISIS. Each will keep feeding delusions of grandeur and masculine righteousness. Each will pour gas on our hopes and then strike up the match of divisiveness. And broadcast it right in our homes and our phones, and the service is free, because for them to see all of that poison take hold is elite level pricelessness. As timeless as oligarchs feeding you mindlessness. Right, this is one of those times that I suddenly wished I was sightless, as eyeless and lifeless to liberals praising our brightest defenders of Western invasion. Praising the people defending a flag that has flown over craters of peaceful and sovereign nations bombed off the face of creation. All to spread something that we call democracy, mockingly, probably. Honestly, we came to starve out your colonies, clear out your properties, claim your resources, and set up a government covered in puppet string. Tied to our global agenda and ripe for the summoning. This is how we keep policing the desperate, knowing we foster their suffering. This is the mark of the beast of America. Pull yourself out of the gutter by only the straps of your debt, sharpen your hustle, and build you some character. Break down your body to enter the lottery. Set your sights right on the luxe, comfy life of a senator, something that's really worth coveting. Because down in the streets, it's a storefront morgue. The sheets are boards and they reek through the coverings. I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm screaming the heavens are plummeting. Came for the catalyst, stayed for the dread and that hideous trumpeting. Came for a glimpse of the spirit of war, covered in gore and speaking in gluttonies. A chorus at once both familiar and otherly, shatter my solace while soothing me, motherly, mindlessly touched I'm a hyacinth, crumbling under the dirt to the earth, to the worst of discoveries. I came for the cavernous, hideous trumpeting, stayed until I didn't mind, and then stayed until I found it comforting. I stayed till the gore was a medal of valor, and all of the war crimes were human and humbling. I stayed until I was defending the caging of children and calling dementia stuttering. Stayed until I was a big fan of access and cautiously skeptic when asked if our healthcare was something our government ought to be covering. Until I was completely complicit in whitewashing immigrant sterilization, refugee separations. I stayed until I swore that I saw justice in all of this bigoted bludgeoning, not just eugenics parading as something communal in service and properly functioning. Not just eugenics you passively swallow like Xanax when pitched by your favorite brands and your most trusted companies. Not us insisting that progress is Congress collectively stumbling. Not just the Democrats holding the Senate, the House, and the ball and intentionally fumbling. Not just our leadership throwing the fight when it's not their lives on the line, it's our kids on the mat and they're taking a pummeling. Because the hearts of the greedy weep not for the needy, they just pump funds for their own refunneling. They burrow in their wealth like a corpse worm tunneling. Stomach full of money, but they'll never see the sun again. It's really kind of funny when you think about it. Then again, it's really so abhorrent, I'm on stun again. Mouth agape, my eyes glaze. The drool is positively puddling. The taste of dirt is fresh and newly earthen on my tongue again. And I'm running through a meadow from the truth of who I voted for. And God, the sun is shining, but the thunderstorms are rumbling. Built back better, didn't stay to see it tumbling. That's autopoetic.
Wow. That's powerful stuff, man. All right, so you got two more?
I got one more. Yeah.
One more. Okay, cool. All right, I'm just gonna do it to it, man. Do the last one, and then we'll sign off together.
And this one's actually a little bit longer. I'll apologize. This one is really the cornerstone of this spoken word album, because it I mentioned in one piece a plant that I referred to as Amazon vine, and it being some sort of like hybrid plant that has like Wi-Fi capabilities, and it's just a cute little addition to your home, kind of a biosynthetic Alexa plant kind of. And once I started playing with the idea of like plants made by Amazon or Tesla, I started kind of tying in just a few different, like, that's where the sci-fi started to kind of come in. All these elements of the things that you'll accept into your home and into your everyday life and not question what they do or whether they have some kind of malign purpose.
Amazon Ring, man.
Yeah, right.
Amazon Ring. I mean, it's like,
yeah. And I had mentioned Hyacinth in that last piece, and that kind of steamrolled into this, which is again really sets up an awful lot of this whole thing. You hear so many people talking about calling and writing your elected officials, and it would be nice to think that some massive letter writing campaign is all it would take anymore, that enough public outcry on something can do the trick, and sometimes it can. But I also think of it as, if you don't, is that not just kind of by default giving your permission, giving your approval of whatever they're doing, you know? And the line just kept sticking in my head of, you don't call, you don't write, you know? And that was that's what steamrolled this piece. Originally was going to be a song, and I intended it for it to be short. And suddenly I looked up and I had this massive spoken word piece on my hands. So again, this is really the best idea of what the spoken word album is going to be.
Right on, man.
Hyacinth. What more you have to give. You don't call, don't write. How is that not to imply that you think what I'm doing must be right? Think that I'm doing all right, and you don't mind giving up your rights. Don't mind seeing your leaders aligned with the violent right. Don't mind carrying water to pour on the altar where we plan to sacrifice all of your pensions in one of our nameless imperial rights that renders the rioters silent and pries every rhyme by its root in their heads, that quiets the storm by denying them platforms to buy up some time for the task force crafting a law to detain them and mace them if they try to ask for their water and bread. Mind you, the bread looks like moss off a boulder from all of the mold, and the water is rusted and red. Bitter as all of the blood you hear pounding when you try to block out the sounds as you're lying in bed. Mind you, the bed is a spot on the floor, and there's really no more to be said. You don't call, you don't write. If you knew better, there'd be mountains of letters outside, stacked to the sky, blocking the sun out and blocking my drive. You would slow the flow of my campaign funds down, my reputation in the ground by sundown. Good thing I got MSNBC on my PR rundown. To put you at ease, maybe give you a nice little neolib rubdown, and blare my redemption from Breitbart to Cumtown. To flood all your free speech channels with a bunch of raw shit and shut the pumps down. Then usher out a couple dozen sock accounts to pop up in your mentions with their toxins stocked and talons out, here to help defend a man's dementia with the passions of a talent scout, selling you their bullshit while they're drooling half a gallon down the hat. They'll pull a rabbit out. And verbally, they'll strap you down, slap you with a finely crafted soundbite from the squad you could try to feed your family with and play back for the officers arriving to evict you in the hopes that they won't snatch you out. But big surprise, their clubs are out and masks are down, impolitely asking you to pack a little faster now, just to please the bastard with the fascist hats and badge that makes him think he's someone actually of matter, not an actor playing overseer at the sick behest of benefactors who would starve as many families as it takes to make their profits fatter. And when they tell those loyal cops their kids are on the chopping block to sate their daily greed or need to satisfy their hungry stocks, statistically, 2/5 of these are all too pleased because it just means that they could beat their spouses without all those little weak attempts to make them stop. I was watching TV screaming, make it stop. Screaming at the cable feed of double talk. Screaming at the daily razor shaving down our labor laws. And screaming at the left like they can wave a wand and change it all. Screaming at the leaders we gave time and trust and money to who played us all. We the people, tattered rags and paper dolls. Screaming at our debt and at the overfed pigs who created all. Trying to teach the ways of the world to my son like I don't hate it all. Stone soup, cops came and ate it all. Water for the homeless, cops are gonna break them all. Education budget, cops are gonna take it all. Send your kids to prison, think about the time you'll save us all. Years later, you'll be lucky if you're paid at all. Years later, you'll be wired to a grid that turns your brain's electric current to a resource they can strip, and we'll all be mining Bitcoin 80 hours at a clip. Too tired for the drive home. It ain't worth the trip because it hurts to be reminded that you never see your kid. And every time they fire up the hub and plug you in, their memory recedes a little further till it blurs into the dim. Until you can't recall your kin. You open up your eyes and you see Tesla on your skin. Earn a dime a day and owe them 20 for the mandatory membership to Tesla Gym, where we're all one big happy family who neutralized your family at the gates when they tried to sneak a message in, and who taunts you with escape in their advertising messaging. Taunts you with the sounds of a child at play, a warm summer day, the things we can all sense slipping away because their frequency is lessening. You are working for a living in which you are only visiting, working under safety laws that profit ends up pivoting, shifting into figures in which losing you is just the cost of maximizing profit in the world that we do business in. The world in which we fight to see the bright side but always get the business end. And I've been here in wait since late 08 to witness this descent. To suck my soul away in little bits, a dime a day, but with a monthly cap of 50 cents. Because Tesla-funded studies show that overpaid employees don't know what to do with all the extra money because they're lazy and they're ignorant. But all the extra capital keeps innovation radical, so you can say that you were part of history in the making in the unacknowledged, patronizing, strictly honorary sense. We understand you may resent that Mr. Musk was heaven sent to take you on his back for his divine ascent, but then just before he reached the palace gates above the firmament, he dropped you on the outer steps a month before retirement. Again, may we refer you to suggested ways of demonstrating gratitude for Mr. Musk that he was kind enough to let you feed his great Leviathan. Tesla-funded studies show that you amount to nothing in the hours you're not wired in. Hours you spend quietly denying that you let them in your head or let them walk potential buyers in. Mind you, all of this a mere month before retirement. And mind you, your retirement is waiting in the dirt that feeds the hyacinth. Or maybe, if you're lucky, you could spend another year assisting researchers in biosynth. Now, mind you, that amounts to nothing more than torture, but they wipe your memory after every session, washing out all prior sense. Think of it as Mr. Musk absolving all your prior sins. Don't think of it as skinning you and fitting you with trial limbs. Think of it as Mr. Musk presenting you the opportunity to help America's elite achieve tighter skin, fuller lips, healthy eyes, smoother lids. Don't think of it as rape. Try to think of it as Mr. Musk assigning you a mate because America needs cattle. I mean, kids. Don't ask what Mr. Musk can do for you. Ask yourself if there is something more you have to give. Ask yourself what more you have to give. Ask yourself what more you have to give. Ask yourself what more you have to give. That's
wow, dude. You got to make this album.
Yeah, I know, right?
You got to do it, man. Got to do it. This is like one of those. This project has to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things I've written that I'm most proud of, and I'm not talking spoken word, I'm talking like screenplays or scripts or anything like that. It usually was just somebody else telling me this has to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, this spoken word album has to happen.
Thank you.
I've seen the preview. The movie needs to be seen.
And it's weird because it's two different mindsets. I don't know if it's the manic depressive switch or like going from the writing and creative to then a period of time where you're not doing that and you're spending time on material that's already been written. It's two completely different creative modes, and forcing that shift sometimes is tricky to like turn off the new material and polish old material. That's always where I've struggled, because I can just keep writing and then I look back, I'm like, shit, I need to do something with some of this before it just like languishes away, you know?
I feel you, man.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your